Hello and welcome to KiltedSwede. So just how difficult is it to get to know a Swede? Well, if you're from the UK like I am, you do have to adapt and adjust a fair bit before you can function in the Swedish social environment. With personal space, communication, and then just how you get to know people, or if you can even get to know people, and when it's okay to ask for someone's phone number, for example. I often think back to when I lived in Scotland. You could literally meet a random, a complete stranger, be it in a pub or a cafe or wherever, somewhere out and about, and maybe there's one seat left in the place. You or the random sit down there, so you end up next to each other, you strike up a conversation, you get chatting, maybe you make each other laugh, you get on really well. You exchange contact information and you stay in touch. Meet up again and maybe even become friends. I met quite a few people like that over the years, and a few of them became my friends, some of them even good friends. But that doesn't really happen in Sweden, at least not in my experience, and I don't think it is likely to happen in the same way, because if there's one thing I've noticed, there's a distinct difference in the accepted levels of when it's okay to cross certain boundaries or barriers or go over a certain line with giving someone your phone number or your contact information, or when it's okay to meet that person again or arrange to see them again. And because where I come from, you could meet a complete random and you just get on really well, and that's it. The rest is history. You just click, go from start, But the go in Sweden does not come at the start. It comes a lot later. So there's a pause. There's no go at the start. There's a long pause. And more often than not, it's a stop. It's a big stop sign, because there's a barrier, there's a wall, an impenetrable, immovable object. And that is the Swedish social shell. The defense bubble, the titanium sphere of, no, okay, get on with it. You get the point. You're not going to break through that very easily. Even if you do end up in the same environment, in a place where you sit down next to a stranger and end up talking, because of course that can happen in Sweden, it does happen. But even if you were to, say, make each other laugh and get on really well, I very much doubt that the majority of Swedes would feel comfortable giving a phone number or a social media username or, something like that to the person to stay in touch. Because you don't know the person. You need to get to know them first, and that's what I'm talking about. So, in the UK, you meet someone, you get along with them, and instantly you're prepared to give them a chance so you can get to know each other. Right from the get-go, from the first time you meet, just because you click and you get on with each other. So in Sweden, on the other hand, you meet someone, you get on great, you click, but you're not prepared to give them the opportunity to get to know you. Or even if you are, you're too careful to step over that line, to take that step, to give them the opportunity. And it's more of a, oh, we'll see you around, which you most likely probably won't, because if you are complete strangers, even if you did see each other again a few weeks later, you might not even recognize each other. That's why it's so important to take advantage of these moments when they do happen, because you could be losing out on a fantastic friendship. And it's a bit of a balance thing, because I'm not saying you should just chuck out your contact details to everyone. That's ludicrous. But from being prepared to do it to just never doing it, well, it's understandable why it's more difficult, generally speaking, to get to know people in Sweden. Because in order to have the opportunity, you need to almost have a mutual meeting point or an activity. Maybe you're a colleague, you work together, or you're classmates, you're studying together. You need a recurring environment, something that means you're in the same place and time together. so that you can spend time around each other on multiple occasions over a long space of time, get to know each other, and then after a while, when you feel really comfortable with each other, when you have gotten to know each other, then, and almost only then, can you exchange contact details and start hanging out and become friends. And that's the sort of general gist of my interpretation of the difference here. So, Brits, for example, prepared to take the chance from the very first meeting as long as there is a rapport. You get on with someone. Swedes, not so much. Something else needs to happen. The stars need to align. It needs to be a sunny day with 2 clouds in the sky, a little bit of light rain for 5 minutes and 31 seconds, an orange car drives past you in one direction and a yellow car in the other direction, and then closely followed by a bus in the same direction as the orange car, and then someone on a unicycle juggling in the same direction as the yellow car, and then, and only then, does the opportunity present itself to maybe ask that person if they want to exchange contact details and hang out with you. Or something like that. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. There's good reason for it. It's a very good thing to exercise caution, especially with strangers. But it's a balance thing as well. I think it's a bit of a shame if you just shut down everything before it even starts. You don't give it a chance. But the way it works in Sweden is you need to have an environment to get to know people, at least in my experience. I've had no experience of getting to know strangers like that, but I have had experience, or in general my experience in Sweden of getting to know people, especially those who've become my friends, has been repeated interactions. You're in the same place, you have a reason to be there, and then you get to know each other because you get familiar with each other. And then after a while you can exchange contact information, start hanging out with each other, keep in touch, get to know each other even better. But it takes time. It takes a lot more time here than what I'm used to. Because there seems to be a bit of an unwillingness to let people in, to let strangers in. At least past a certain point, the restrictions are a lot further out. You know, the sphere. But to get back to the initial question, is it difficult? What was the original question? Is it difficult to get to know a Swede? Yes, it is. Are there any tricks or keys to it? No. I wouldn't say so. But give them time, space, and be courteous and respectful. And patience. You need a lot of patience. But as I said, the most important thing is the environment needs to be correct. It needs to be right. It needs to present itself. It's almost like you can't make it happen. You can't force it. It needs to just organically develop, you know. Like I said, the stars need to align. And that's just the way it is. Bye for now.